Hello all, welcome to another session in this course. As part of this session, I'm going to cover the next topic, that is constructor chaining in JavaScript. So let's get started. So what is the topic I'm going to cover in this session? Constructor chaining in JavaScript. Let me type it here. Constructor chaining. What is this constructor chaining in JavaScript? You know that when you create a class, inside a class, you can create a constructor, right? To initialize the variables of the class for each and every object. We generally create the constructors inside the classes generally. Okay, so assume that there is a constructor, sorry, there is a class. Assume that there is another class, and assume that this class is inheriting the properties from this class. So this class is called as a parent class basically. Okay, the class from which the properties are getting inherited by other class is called as a parent class. This is a parent class. This is a parent class. The class from which the properties are getting inherited by another class is called as a parent class. The class which is actually inheriting the properties from another class is called as a child class. This one is a child class. In this kind of situation, assume that in the parent class there is a constructor, and in the child class also there is a constructor. You created the constructor here and here. Now, if you create an object for the child class, okay, if you create an object for the child class, when you create an object for the child class, assume like this, you create an object for the child class, guys. What will happen? What will happen when you create an object for a child class? The child class constructor need to be called. This particular constructor need to be called. But this constructor, before it is executed, the parent class constructor need to be executed. According to the constructor chaining, guys, okay, even though you create an object for the child class, before the child class constructor get executed, first the parent class constructor need to be executed. That's the rule. As part of the constructor chaining mechanism in JavaScript, when the child class constructor is called, before the code inside this constructor of the child class get executed, first the parent class constructor need to be executed, then only the child class constructor will be executed. So what will happen if this is not happening according to the constructor chaining, and what are the challenges and all? Okay, all these things I'm going to cover. So this is theoretical part for now, but I'm going to make it practical so that you'll understand what exactly is constructor chaining after this practical demonstration. I'll go to this Visual Studio Code and create a new file, that is demo.js, and here I'm going to create a class animal. I'm going to create two classes, guys. One is animal class, another one is dog class. Okay, I want to make this dog class a child of the animal class using the extends keyword as covered in the previous session. Like class-based inheritance in JavaScript, how to make a particular class a child class of another class by using extends keyword. Now, in the parent class, that is animal parent class, I'm going to create a constructor, guys. I'm going to create a constructor here. Okay. And I'm going to create a constructor, empty constructor basically. And here I'm going to write a print statement saying animal constructor. I'll just write animal constructor here. Here also in the dog class also I'm going to create a constructor, guys. Okay. In this constructor, I'm going to write down dog constructor. Okay. Here I'm going to create dog constructor. Here I'm going to create here I'm going to write animal constructor and a dog constructor here. Okay, so dog is a child class of the animal class, and here both have that. Okay, now I'm going to create an object for the child class, that is the dog class. That is, I'll just write like this: const dog is equal to new dog. So in this object creation statement, this part will call the constructor of the child class. Okay, the constructor of the child class will be called. The constructor of the child class will be called. When the constructor of the child class is called, okay, so a lot of people think that dog constructor will get executed, and that dog constructor will be printed and without any error and all. But before, even though you create an object for the child class and the dog class constructor is getting called, but before the dog class constructor got executed, as per the constructor chaining mechanism or constructor chaining kind of rule in JavaScript, first the parent class constructor need to be executed before the child class constructor. But here I'm creating an object for the child class, so constructor of the child class only will be called. But what about the parent class constructor? If it is not getting executed, what will happen and all? Okay, let's see that. You are going to get an error, guys. Okay, the code is not going to run in a proper way. So let me run this code and see that we'll get an error in the output console. Okay, so demo.js, if I say, you see, even though dog constructor has been printed here, but here you see console.log dot constructor must call super constructor in derived class before accessing this or returning from the derived constructor at new, and all this kind of error, some kind of error is coming. The reason behind the error is we are not obeying the rules of the constructor chaining, where before the child class constructor is executed, the parent class constructor need to get executed. So for that, inside the constructor of the child class, write like this, super, like this. Okay, super means, super circular bracket means constructor of the parent class need to be called. Okay, first I need to call the constructor of the parent class. Once it gets executed, then only the constructor of the child class need to get executed. So to overcome this particular error, I need to write this super. Okay, now clear this out and run this code again. You see, this time it is perfectly working. First animal constructor is called, then dog constructor is called. So this is the rule of the constructor chaining, guys. What if the child class constructor is getting executed before the parent class constructor? So you are going to get that error just now I showed you, right? But to overcome that, I have written super method kind of stuff. Okay. So this is a constructor calling statement. Okay. It will call the parent class constructor. All good. Okay. All good so far. What if, what if guys, this is a constructor chaining mechanism. What if, we have this name here. Okay. Name here, name comma breed. Okay. Like this are there. Here only name parameter is there, but here name and breed are there. In that kind of case, how this constructor chaining will be useful here is, here I'll write down this dot name is equal to name. And here, when I'm calling this super class constructor, as part of the constructor chaining, I need to call this constructor before this constructor gets executed. What I will do here is super of, I'll just pass name here, only name I will pass. Okay. And then say this dot breed is equal to breed. Like this I'll write. Okay. You don't have to initialize all this variables in the child class. Okay. So repetition, you see multiple classes will be inheriting this animal class. In that case, this name no need to be inherited by all the child classes, guys. Okay. So this particular name in this example will be initialized by the animal class only, and all the child classes don't have to repeat this code. So repetition of the code is gone here. The repetition of the code in initializing the variables across multiple child classes is gone. This is only initialized at the parent level, and anyhow this will be inherited by the child classes. So only the thing that is specific to the child class need to be initialized here. Okay, whatever the common thing in the parent class can be initialized in the parent class. Okay, so this is what is another advantage of the constructor chaining. So here also we need to call this, guys. If you don't call this super of name here, right, okay, you are going to get the error. For example, if I put a comment here, so what will happen in this case? What will happen? Even though here I'll pass something like name is equal to Tommy, okay, breed is equal to then okay, German Shepherd. Like this, if I write, okay, if I write this code like this, so will this be executed? You'll get error, guys. Okay, you're going to get the error. Now you're going to get the error. You see, this dot breed is equal to breed, and reference must call the super constructor in the derived class. How to call the super constructor? Uncomment this part. Super of name you need to pass. Okay, this name will be initialized in the parent class. So there is a purpose of the constructor chaining also to, remove the repetition of the initialization of the class variable in multiple child classes for this animal class. You are doing that common class variable initialization in the parent class itself. That's what is an advantage you are going to get. The once I have uncommented the super of name, right, this is going to work fine. You see, animal constructor, dog constructor got printed here. Okay, that's all good. Okay, it's working. Code is working fine. So this is called as constructor chaining in JavaScript, guys. Okay, this is called as a constructor chaining in JavaScript. So before the child class constructor is executed or called or executed, the constructor in the child class need to call the constructor in the parent class. Okay, the constructor in the child class need to call the constructor in the parent class using the super. Okay, then only the things will be resolved. And this concept is called as a constructor chaining in JavaScript, guys. So hope guys you understood what exactly is constructor chaining in JavaScript. So that's all for this session. See you in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye.